We are the office. Our work involves a lot of things, and we are guided by several domestic and international laws, standards, and foundations. We inform and guide citizens on the use of government resources through simplified and citizen-friendly audit reports, providing independent and professional services on economic, efficient, and effective use of the country's resources. We are a fairly balanced workforce of more than 100 staff, paving the way in national development. Our core values are integrity, professionalism, teamwork, accountability, and relevance. We plan, we perform, we report. We help the government to spend wisely. We are the National Audit Office, the supreme audit institution of the Gambia.
Hello and welcome to the Spotlight with me, Aliu Jallo. And in the building today, we have the National Audit Office. Of course, to start with my left is Sering Mas Jallo, the Director of Audit. And on my far left is Alhaji Drame, Director of Corporate Service. And on my far right, I have Omar P. Sabali, Senior Performance Audit Manager. And the only lady in the room or in the panel is no other person but Binta Sise, a communication specialist. Binta Ture, sorry, my bad. Welcome to the FATU Network.
Thank you.
Good. So we understand the National Audit Office is the supreme body that actually audits all government institutions to make sure that public funds are wisely spent. Just to move on the first question, I'll go to Binta. Take us through why the establishment of the National Audit Office.
All right. Thank you very much, Aliu. We are happy to be on your platform, and also our viewers. We welcome everybody on the program. So this program that we are having is actually part of, maybe just to share the objective, part of our sensitization initiatives, because we all know audit, it's a technical area. But more so when people hear the National Audit Office, probably they wouldn't know what is its mandate and its role. So this program is one of the initiatives we are using to interact with the Gambian citizens so that they know about more about their Supreme Audit Institution. Now, coming back to your question, the National Audit Office is a public institution that is established by the Constitution of the Gambia. When you go to the 1997 Constitution, our current Constitution, from sections 158 to 160, it details out the establishment of the office, and that there should also be, there shall be an Auditor General as head of the institution. So the Auditor General is the head of the National Audit Office, who is mandated to carry out audit of public accounts. And to also report to the National Assembly on those audits, and then at some point to also publish the audit reports for the benefit of the citizens. The office is important because, as we all know, we have an accountability system. We have the National Assembly that allocates the national budget. So in the accountability system, the executive should be accounted for the implementation or the use of those public funds. So that brings in an arm that now has to go back to look into how those funds were expensed and then report back to Parliament. And Parliament will now use that to do its oversight of the executive. And then the people also who are the representative, who are actually the ones that these funds are to benefit, they would be also able to hold the public offices and the public officials accountable on how these funds have been used. So in essence, like I said, the general mandate, if one can put it, it's mainly to audit, report to the National Assembly on how these public funds have been utilized in a given period.
Okay, just to summarize that in Mandinka, because we have viewers who does not actually understand the English language, but could you just summarize a little bit of what you just said, either in Mandinka or any of the languages you're comfortable
with? You should have asked me to prepare, but okay. Badingol minul ben jibe kang ngalbe mbal kontonna pour ka fo kontol bota doku bundato e ka fo mi National Audit Office ni amo National Audit Office wolon banko la bundar mi ya lonko ya tele sembentu ya pour ay kisi roke andu wo sembentu ya yo sembo min diala ya tambindin na kuntiola e ka min foko Auditor General. So ye sembo min dinna Auditor General la wolong National Assembly ye sembo min dinna Auditor General la wolong sawo sang pour kata masakunda doku bundalto ka jibe mankola depenso ye min dila pour ye la doku oke ye wo depenso ya Kenya dile. So nka min fojan wolong ko dola doku akumayata bake because ni aje wo kumayata ning bankola nafulo anyanta ka banku dingole nafa so pour wo nafa ye futela fo mota aya jibe nindo mansakunda do ko bundal ko do nin Kenya dile so maybe kacha kono fanan nin naka funyol bi jang ibe gena dunna kacha kono pour ka tandi nimbe wo kisikisiro la nga kisikisiri ñaar sifaje leke andi nin na mol mi yal ko fanan ke kisikisi ibe mum bunda sifalde to baraka.
Thank you. That was great. At least viewers will have a better understanding. Now I'll move on to Mr. Drame. We understand the National Audit Office has now evolved to the National Supreme Audit. Give us a synopsis as to how the evolution came about, and then, you know, what actually prompted the evolution from an audit unit to a Supreme Audit Unit.
Thank you very much. Let me just rectify that it's called the Supreme Audit Institute. These are just terms that we use. Supreme, not the literal meaning of supreme. It's just telling you that you may have other audit institutions, but this is the topmost when you come to each country. How it evolved is that I don't want to go to pre-colonial history, but I know before 2015 we were civil servants, 100% within the civil service. So what that meant was that we were less independent. But come 2015, with the promulgation of the NAO Act 2015, we became independent. What that means is that as of 2015, we now became kind of empowered to do certain things that we can do without much influence from any outside party. What that empowerment means is that now the executive, be the president himself, be the Minister of Finance, you have no say as to how we conduct our services. So yeah, we still depend on the government to give us funds, but those funds even have been guarded as to how it is laid, our budget is laid. The president does not have the power to say, or the Minister of Finance to say, no, your budget is 100 million, we are going to give you 80. That power has now shifted to the National Assembly. So the president can only, when we submit our budget, he can only comment to say, okay, they want 100 million, but the government can only give them 90. Here you are, the National Assembly, you can now decide. It is the National Assembly that will decide as to how much is given to us and so forth. What that gives us is that now we are kind of fully independent to say we decide as to what audits we do and where, in fact, our priority lies. Okay, we can now decide as to, at the beginning of each year, to say we are going to look at this.
Use your mic, please.
Yeah, so, no, okay, sorry. We can now decide as to when we rank these institutions using certain factors to say, oh, this year we want to audit institutions so forth and so forth without the influence of the executive. The National Audit Office, people would want to know how it is governed. We are not, as I said, we are independent. But that does not mean that we work in vacuum, because the Auditor General also has a body that is responsible for overseeing the office. The 2015 Act established the board. The board has a 5 membership, which comprises of the chairman of the Public Service Commission, Obviously, our AG is the chairman of that board. You also have a nominee from the Gambia Bar Association. You have also a nominee from the professional accounting body, which is JICA here in the Gambia. You also have a consideration of a retired seasoned economist. I want to emphasize that because you cannot be an auditee and also serve in our board. So to maintain our independence, now it has to be a retired seasoned economist, so a non-practicing economist. So, and also when it comes to the National Audit Office itself, the auditor, we have what we call the the strategic management team, which comprises of the Auditor General himself and the two deputy auditor generals that help him. Also further down, a little bit down the line, we also have what we call the senior management team, which now comprises of those that I have already mentioned, and the directors. So you have other units. I don't want to bore you with the different sections within, but yeah, that's how our structure is. Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the Auditor General, this sounds as a big name so far, to most of the people out there, and then would not just understand what his mandates are and also his powers. Now, could you, let me save to Binta a little bit to shed a little bit light on what the Auditor General actually does and some of his powers, and then what are some of his restrictions? I'll actually come to Mr. Drame.
Okay. So maybe first off, like you said, and I think like we said in the introduction, he's the one that is mandated to do these audits and report. But of course, we know as an individual, he cannot do all of it by himself. So he's empowered to have professionals, to have staff that will conduct these different assignments as part of his team. So like I said, when you go into the Constitution, the mandate is of course wide. It's wide, but just for the sake of the time, like I said, it starts with he is mandated to audit. So when we say audit, the audit is looking at the accounts of public institutions like government and enterprises. But it also went further to say that he should at any point in time also satisfy himself on how these funds are used, whether they are economical, whether they were efficient, whether they were effective as well. So this mandate, in the conduct of the audit, and when he is reporting, he is expected to report on any irregularities that he notes during that exercise. And then it also the Constitution further also mandates him that where he sees any issue of discrepancies, he is able to, or he can disallow and then surcharge. So the mandate is wide, but I think for now, like we said, the key one is that he is a position that is mandated to audit on government accounts and also report to National Assembly.
So I have two gentlemen actually who are bored and allowing. Now I'll shift to Mr. Jallo here, who is the Director of Audits. Of course, when we Director of Audits, it's a big portfolio, So Mr. Jallo, there was a lot of hoo-ha when the President said an audit report is just an opinion, and it causes a lot of noise, in town. Can you just tell us how you conduct these audits and what is an audit report in general, and the steps you take to actually audit a particular institution?
Thank you, Alu. Before I try to delve into your question, I just wish to highlight that audit is basically a process of systematically and objectively obtaining information and evidences so as to see that it is conformed with the set criteria. This set criteria, I want to zoom it into the three types of audits that we do. That is the financial audit, the compliance audit, and the performance audit. Of course, my colleague will delve into more in the performance audit. When it comes to financial, it's more of expression and opinion, whether the financial statement shows true and a fair view in accordance with the financial reporting framework. When it comes to compliance, it's basically looking at whether those funds that were appropriated were spent in accordance with the governing laws and regulations, basically, in brief. So coming back to your point, that is how we do our audit. Our audit is very transparent, and I would categorize it into three. That is the planning, the execution, and the reporting. In the planning phase of the audit, that is where we ensure that we put up an engagement letter to say that we are going to audit entity A, and that we have agreed responsibilities, both management and the auditors. And also in that same engagement letter, it also spelled out the deliverables on the stages of the audit, or what the timing of the audit, if you like. That is, it's going to take 1 month, it's going to take 2 months, etc., etc. So that defines the responsibilities of both parties, but also it defines the timing of the audit. In the same planning, that's where we also use to understand the entity that we're going to audit, because if we come to audit entity A, there is nobody who knows entity A than those that are running entity A. So for us to understand entity A, we need to understand the entity of their processes and procedures, because it's only when we understand their processes and procedures, then we are also able to develop audit procedures in order to ensure that whatever has been appropriated to them by the National Assembly, they have executed that in accordance with the relevant laws and regulations and any other reporting framework, if you like. Now, once we understand, then we go to the execution part of the audit. That's where now, based on the understanding of the entity, now we do detailed execution of reviewing of their documentation, the payment vouchers, etc., etc. Now, once we finish that part of the execution, in fact, in some instances, in the execution part of the audit, it will require us now to zoom into the relevant areas or the various intervention sites that is being carried out by that particular entity. That is why sometimes in our audits, let's say we audit the entity A, it might require us to go to the different regions just to see, for example, say there was a construction of a culvert road in the remotest village, for example. We would want to go there and see whether actually the funds that they said has been spent on that particular infrastructure have actually been spent in that infrastructure or not, just to understand what has been done, value for money, if you like. But then coming back to after the execution, then we do our reporting. Now, in that reporting phase of the audit is also very transparent in the sense that as we are doing the execution, we are vouching, we are also sharing our audit findings with the client. That okay, we have seen this, so we share with the client. Okay, we have seen this. Can you explain what is this? Provide explanation and relevant evidence. Mind you, explanation is not just enough, but the evidence to support whatever explanation that you are giving. Then the reporting phase, when we do finish the audit, we issue a draft, what we call the draft management letter. That draft management letter details out all the findings that have come to our attention during the course of the audit. And then in that, we also have our exit meeting. Mind you, when we send the engagement letter, just to rewind you a bit back, we also have the entrance meeting. Now, when we send the draft, we also have the exit meeting. This exit meeting now is where we discuss with the management of the entity all the audit findings that have came to our attention during the course of the audit, and to agree to disagree or agree to agree. For us, management might not agree, but for us, whether the information that we have reported is factual, that is what is important, or that is what is key as far as we are concerned. Then from the draft, after the exit meeting, we give them time to respond formally to all the issues that we have raised in that draft management letter. And when they respond, we pick verbatim of their management response into the report. We do not alter their response. We pick verbatim their management response and include that in the report. Then we issue the final management letter. Where it is a financial statement, we also issue an audit report that shows an opinion of whether the financial statement shows a true or favorable or otherwise, either a qualified opinion or unqualified opinion. However, if it comes to opinion.
No, let me just interject a little bit there. Yeah. You talk about a qualified opinion and unqualified opinion, and this would actually cast some misunderstanding. Yeah. Could you just help us understand what is a qualified opinion?
I was coming to that.
Okay.
Yeah, because the layman in the street, if you say a qualified opinion, meaning it's free, everything is okay.
Okay, that's a qualified.
That's
No, for the
no,
layman.
for the layman.
Okay.
That's a qualified opinion. But in audit, a qualified opinion meaning that it's not okay.
Okay.
Yeah? Let me take you back to the opinion issue. Opinion, I would borrow my colleague language that he used. Opinion in literal meaning, it's not a dictionary meaning as such. You know, I can come here and say my own opinion and you say your own opinion. That is different from audit.
Okay.
An audit, if you say an audit opinion, it means that you have followed the required methodology. Let's say in our case, we follow the ISAIS, International Standard of Supreme Audit Institution. That is the standards that we follow. So the methodology that we follow and arriving at an opinion, any other auditor or any other accountant that follow the same methodology would arrive at the same conclusion. It's different from a journalist referring to the same. The journalist would, of course, come with a different opinion because audit opinion is not just a mere opinion.
You know, this term opinion actually, you know, some time ago it had a public outcry, you know, and then the confusions were just too much on that.
May I just add that we are all Gambians, we were aware of that. But what we can always say is that I'm someone that is so fond of giving analogies. For example, if you are sick and if you are sick and you go to the doctor,
and then you could also look at the camera.
If you are sick and you go to the doctor, I expect the doctor to come and listen to you and refer you to a lab, and afterwards get the results from that lab, and then now give you prescription. I'm now comparing that with the audit.
Okay.
Okay. Any other doctor that also goes through the same procedure, refers you to the lab with the same result, should be able to tell you you are malaria positive or not. It's not kind of what anybody can guess to say, despite that he has undergone these processes, he is arriving at a different conclusion. So for us, an audit opinion takes a scientific method. You do something, any other person, any other experienced auditor who goes through the same process must come to the same conclusion. And another thing, which I usually forget, even whilst we say this is the opinion, we also, the next paragraph says basis of the opinion. The basis of the opinion will tell you, why did I give this opinion that I'm giving? Do you understand?
Meaning there are
basis
to qualify those opinions.
Yes. If, for example, I'm giving you a qualified opinion. As he said, a qualified opinion in our profession is not a good thing.
Okay.
So now, if I am giving you a qualified opinion, I will say now in the next paragraph to say, these are the things that I have seen that have now led me to make this decision. So to an accountant, you just not read the paragraph, the opinion paragraph, and just stop there, because there is evidences. Apart from the work we did, even in the report that we have produced, there's evidences as to why we have arrived at this.
Okay.
Yeah. And in addition to that, you see, before we issue out this opinion, I mean, to the relevant stakeholders, we issue what we call the draft audit opinion. And this draft audit opinion is shared with the management of the entity. That is to say, before you sign off, read the draft audit opinion and satisfy yourself that what we are saying is you are in agreement with it. Mind you, like I said, you might not agree, but is it factual? Now, this draft is sent to you to board and management of that particular institution, and then they read through that opinion with the management letter and see the basis of opinion, as Alahaji was saying, read through everything, and they sign it off.
Okay. So now what we want is, we've spoken a lot, and there are people out there, like I said, who cannot understand the English language. So I just want you to just give us a summary, a little bit of what you just said here about the audit opinion, how do you arrive to that, and the processes.
I'll leave Alaji to do that.
No, okay, then I'll shift to
No,
Mr.
Alaji would able to summarize that.
Okay. Or Alaji, then you can go.
I know our colleague is itching because he
Yeah,
is
I
from-
have a lot of questions for him
yeah,
right now.
he says he's from a different field because we are financial auditors. He is a performance auditor. He has a lot to say to the country, but maybe he spoke in Mandinka. I will try in Wolof.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
mbokk yi ñoo seetaan wala ngeen ñoo déglu National Audit Office lañ jógee office bu suñ constitution bi dooleel pour ñu gëstu dépasse bu National Assembly jox banxaasi nguur gi fan lañ ko dugal comme ni ñu ko waxee na nag banxaas bu yaatu la lu constitution bi laajte mooy ne fu dërëmi nguur gi dugal ñun am nañ right pour dem seeti ko wax dëgg yàlla nag loolu rëy na waaye office bi rëyut soo moo tax na at bu nekk su ñëwee dañoo taana plan lan lañ mun a def si at bii nii daak am na considération nag moo am na yu ñoo seet comme ni léegi ñii auditor nañ leen at daaw da jarut gisuñ fa woon dara jarut ñu dem ren wala audit bi place bi romb nañ ko ñaari at ñetti at audituñ ko wala fii yaakaar nañ ne fii de yàqu-yàqu bu réyang fi kaay la ñu dem seeti foofu noonu so yooyu noonu si la bokka waaye tamit lu ma leeral rek mooy ne ñu bari ñu ngi am interest yi ne audit opinion lu ma wax mooy ne liggéey bu nekk am na kàddu yoo xam ne su ko waxee dañ koo dikkale si foofu ñun suñ ne opinion doo ko mun a wecci rek ne waaw gis-gisam ñun suñ opinion dafa uute comme ni ku nekk ne ko ni ka am na gis-gisam ñun suñ opinion doo toog rek joxe opinion dafa am looy war a jaar dafa am living yu bari loo war a def comme ni war ngaa teg sa tànk fii teg sa tànk fii teg sa tànk fii ba àgga fële kon soo demee ba àgga na jeexal naa soo ne loolu gis naa ko si yoon bi kenn warul laa weddi waaw ñun suñ liggéey noonu la demee suñ opinion dafa uutee ko doo ko mun a wéccee rek ne ok olof bi toog rek ne fële ne la déedéet gis-gisam déedéet suñ opinion demee
kaddu bi amoon na sometime bu président yi wax ne opinion gis-gis la te loolu wax bi bëriwoon na lool so loo moo tax tey am neen chance bi pour yéen nga xam ne yéen a nekk di liggéey foofu noonu pour at least won askan mi lii mooy yéen soo leen waxee opinion lii la miin daal waaw ak yan sarta ngeen dee jaar tamit pour arrive at that opinion boo leen nekk di
am na leneen lu ma waxoon ni tamit de si anglais dinaa ko waxaat si olof mooy ne ñun suñ ne opinion soo demee si boronam si suuf di tamit dinañ la wax fan lañ déggu benn lii mooy suñ tax kàddu ne lii fii lañ ko tënka comme nu ma la ko waxee teg nañ suñu tànka fii teg nañ suñu tànka fii teg nañ suñu tànka fii luñ gis loo xam ne ñuul na si diggante bi nañ wax ne lu ñuul li ñu gisoon fii lu ñuul li ñu gisoon fii lu xaw la ñuul li ñu gisoon fii moo tax at the end of the day ñu ne lii fii lañ bee suñ kàddu so comme ni ñun soo jëlee dictionnaire bi rek ne yaa ngi translate opinion nu mu miin si dictionnaire bi nga war koo jël daf laa xala réeral comme ni ma ko waxee woon rek ne mooy ne liggéeykaay bu nekk am na yi kàddu yu moom comme ni yow léegi ku nekk si mbedd bi soo ne ko qualified driver dafa kontaan driver bu baax la waaye ñun suñu liggéey ak qualified opinion du lu baax accountant bi bëggul loolu.
So I will now come to Mr. Sabali. He has been on the waiting list for a while and then allowing all the other people. Of course, I know he has to smile because it's his chance. You know, you are a performance manager on Audit's report. Tell us, how do you actually arrive at an audit, report itself? Because we understand, like he said, there are so many processes involved. But give us a synopsis of how do you actually arrive. And also in terms of, I understand there is a stage where you have where you have you engage them, and what are some of those issues you have within?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bah, is it?
Jalo.
Jalo.
You want to give me Bah now?
Okay. Thank you very much. It's like Serif Mas has already set a very good stage for understanding what audit means. Performance audit is something new, but it follows the same process. You have to plan an audit, you have to execute, you have to report, then at a later time you follow up on the recommendation you have given over time, whether they have been implemented. But what is performance audit? Otherwise you call it value for money. These two names are synonymous. Other people call it performance audit, but other people in the region call it value for money. So it is an independent examination and a very reliable process that you look into the operations, the programs, the systems of how institutions operate and whether they are operating economically, efficiently, and effectively. So I will underline those three words along the line. That is the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. But to somebody, what would this mean? That's why I said it's not very much different from the other systems. So when you talk about the economical part of the definition, it's like these goods or these goods and services that you would need to perform a particular function or a program or an activity by government are at their fair prices and they are available at in terms of quality and quantity. So you will see whatever you do in financial audit, you can put it together and lump it into the fourth E, that is the economy. But when you take it to go to the next one, which is the efficiency, efficiency is telling you now what do you do with the meager resources that you are given. If you go to these institutions, when you ask or put a question mark over their operations and you seek answers, the first thing they will tell you, the resources are not enough. And there is nowhere in the world that resources can be enough. But what is important, what do you do with that meager resources, that little amount you are given to carry out those functions that you are supposed to do? Government operatives, HODs, ministers or department ministries, and the list goes on, are giving a portion of the national budget. That is not given to you for you to take, but is to carry out responsibilities. That responsibility in that sealed envelope are given to you together with those resources. And now you face the country now. You face the people who are you going to serve. Now we've given you these responsibilities, but it comes with this package or that amount of dollars that you claim for, even if you do not have it in full. But at least what is given to you, use that to carry out your function properly. So whether you are able to carry out those functions in a timely manner, but without compromising quality, the output is okay. But you take it to the next step, that is the efficiency, the effectiveness part. Every day, Mr. Jallo, we wake up to issues that we have not slept with. What I'm trying to allude to are issues in our societies. But government also has taken care to put in place structures and put in there people who are supposed to solve these problems for us when they emanate, through their planning, through their execution, and so forth. So now, the effective part, the effectiveness is talking about, together with that little you are given, and then the responsibility, have you solved that problem? So now you have now defined the 3 E's. Now, but the next question is why performance audit? Because I said it is the newest in the region. Performance audit, if you go to accountants or institutions, when you start, the moment you say good morning or good afternoon or salaam alaikum, you talk about auditors, then they are calling the accountant for you. Which is fine. We still work with accountants, but we are more concerned with service delivery. You, like my colleague says, Serin Mas, and then the rest of the team, you give an opinion at the end of the audit, but we give a conclusion at the end of the audit against the objective that we are put in place. Government has a reason to put up an institution. Once they put an institution in place, they give them responsibilities. So these responsibilities or those institutions has aligned objective that they need to fulfill. So we compare what was given to you against what you are supposed to do. Then we conclude on whether you have successfully carried out what you are supposed to do. Take, for example, there are so many projects. There are so many activities that government is taking place. But at the end of the day, you go back to those local people that were supposed to benefit from this, and then you can listen to their outcry. The project has come, but we have not benefited anything. So all those queries. So meaning the effectiveness part has not come through. The books can be correct. Like you go to an accountant. If you're a wise accountant, if you audit me this year, and then you say you highlight 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm a smart accountant, next time if you come, you will not find it there. Because I'll make the box correct. But where I will wait for you, like I will take you to where Serij says, we take a right and go to where you said we have delivered this service. Whether it is there, talk to the people in the street. So essentially, performance audit bring accountability to the doorstep of the people, because we face the people and ask those questions. What have you benefited from these people? So now,
well, just to remind our viewers, it's the NOA Hour. With me today, it's the senior management team of the National Audit Office who are here to enlighten the public on what their role is and what they are doing to actually see that the monies, the tax that you're paying to government, you know, how is it audited? Is there any transparency? Is the money used wisely? So you listen to them. At the end of the day, you can also contribute. But if you also have a question, you can drop it on the comment section. Any question that you have, drop it in the comment sections, and then we will follow up, and then they're here to actually clarify some of these questions that you have. So go on, Mr.
Yeah, having defined what performance audit, next you ask me another good question, that is, how do we plan it, or how do we execute it? Now, let's start with the planning. The Auditor General is a very big man and is very strong. He can choose topics for us to carry out. The onus is on the audit team to go and modify, to motivate, to see whether it is possible to carry it out or not. For example.
So when you talk about team, could you give us a synopsis of how many do you have in your team, and how effective is this? Because you're auditing a lot of government institutions and public enterprises, so it goes down to how much do you have on your team to be able to execute this amount of tax on you?
Yeah, you're right. But also, in as much you want to do the work, but you also need the people. The resources is not only about the money. You need that number of people to be able to carry out.
That's where I'm.
Now, coming from this unit, this is the performance audit. We started in 2014. So with three. That was the first audit we carried out on a solid waste management in the city of Banjul. Then we take it a little bit further. Then we moved to 6, then to 9. Then to 14, and currently we are about 19. So, but look at what is happening in the whole society. Now, problems are everywhere, and most of these performance audit reports are mostly motivated by public outcries. What is happening in a particular sector, or what is happening in a particular environment that the people are not happy with? You see, that's why I am saying the Auditor General has very wide ears. He listens. Based on his mandate, and then he go and carry out that audit. So essentially, when we plan, we have 2 routes. The first route is the Auditor General can choose a topic based on what he wants to do, because in fact, all the audits we are carrying out is his responsibility. We are his tools to help him execute his mandate. So he could, for example, let me use just a short example, like the barcode dome site, if you like. Maybe if he's passing there and then he feels he's not okay with that, he could sanction an audit and say, go and do an audit on solid waste management. But number 2, we also have the second method, which is more rigorous. We run what we call a sector screening. At that moment, we become sector doctors, like he said. You look at an entire sector. For example, the environment sector. Gambia has so many sectors. You could have the education sector, you could have the environmental sector, you could have the tourism sector, the agricultural sector, and then the list goes on. For example, you want to choose, if the public is complaining of, for example, that waste management you're talking about, it's an environmental issue. So the only point you can turn to is to look at the environmental sector. Perhaps there are so many players in that environmental sector. You could have a sector, for example, I could define it this way, like a group of institutions, if you like, state institutions, that operates in a particular space to satisfy a national need. So if I say the environmental sector, there are so many players into that. For example,
just to add to one question, you talk about value for money, which actually is something very essential, and it's something that is of great concern to the public. Now, we understand Gambia has a lot of projects, and one of it is going down to the field to see actually if the value for money reflects on the society. Now, take us through how do you do that, and how regular do you normally do this process?
Unlike financial audits, what you do in performance audit is when the need arises. You look at a particular, that's why I said the Auditor General listens also partly to the general public. That's what you call a problem-oriented approach to an audit. You could have a system.
I'll give you one example actually right now. We have a lot of road constructions actually going on, you know, across the country.
Yes.
And the value for money is something that is important. You said that is when the need arises, and the public is always crying every day. So you're telling us that you have to wait until it rains from the Auditor General before you could actually go and...
so many issues happens in this. Not everything that he cannot hear everything. Okay. Yeah, he cannot hear everything at once at a particular time. But also what you need to do also, these sectors as I named them, we also operate using a strategy. We develop that strategy on top, and then we break it down to operational on an annual basis to see which sector we go after. But the point I was making is like when the Auditor General wants to audit, he's guided by a process. That's where I was talking about the sector screening. Because you want to blame somebody, but you do not want to blame them for responsibilities that they are not supposed to carry out. So in that you run a sector screening to see exactly this problem that is here. Even you say it's an environmental issue, but who is directly responsible of this? To fix this problem in that society. Then you start breaking it down so that you understand. That's where we come to the next, the fourth stage of the planning we call a pre-study. But it's good to know that performance audit, due to its nature, we just don't run it for 1 month or 2 months. It takes a whole 9 months. Because it's kind of, if you understand it properly, you are producing almost 2 reports. Because a pre-study, it could be as big as 50 pages, 60 pages, depending on what. But what pre-study does for you is to help you understand exactly what the problem is. And then break it down into smaller pieces, smaller consumable pieces that you can always look at. Because, for example, if you wake up in the morning, like you said, raining season, and then you find everywhere, flood happening everywhere, whose responsibility is? This water comes from the sky, and there's something somewhere responsible of pouring that water into the Gambia. Do you blame government for the flood?
Oh, yeah, you have to blame government in the sense that...
Yes, I am breaking it down. Okay. I'm coming to that point. Right. You know, it's a natural occurrence. The water comes from the sky. Something somewhere is responsible of pouring that water that you do not have control over. That is the Almighty, if you like. But now what you can blame government for? What is the level of preparedness? Do they put in? What structures or what strategies have they put in place to prevent people from suffering from those floods? But you cannot quantify the water. Government, why do you allow Allah to pour these thousands of barrels in the Gambia? You cannot do that. But what you can do, look at what's government responsibility in that flood, then you try to fix that. That's what the Auditor General look at. For example, even like a scenario to that. If when we talk about waste management, the Auditor General can't not tell you what type of food and what waste you generate in your house. But once they leave your house, they are in the street, they become public property. That's where the government tax charge. But whether you buy chalo in your house or you eat meat, whatever you eat in your house, that is not Auditor General's responsibility. Where he pick up the responsibility is when you package that waste out of your house and start putting them in the street. Then that's where the process starts. But what you eat in your house, he has nothing to say about it.
I just wanted to clarify.
You wanted to ask?
Maybe our viewers may say, okay, he has asked a pertinent question and they are trying to run away from it. I think there was a question that you asked that had to deal with our capacity. It's a major problem. Usually people will say,
because he talks about,
especially now that we want to take up the audits of the audits of SOEs and so forth, people will say they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity as in we don't have the numbers, or also as in we do not have the qualification. That's the thing of the past. The National Audit Office has evolved. Presently, there was a time when you come to the National Audit Office, you don't have any professional. Now we can boast of around at least 85 staff that at least have ACCA, either have ACCA, they have other professional qualities, for example, certified fraud examiners, you have CIMA, you have CIFA, you have bachelor's degree holders, you have master's degree holders. Presently, I think we have up to 9 fully certified ACCA holders. So when people have doubt as to our capacity, sometimes it makes me laugh. That if you compare with the private audit firms, you go to a private audit firm, you have only 2 ACCA holders, or even 1. So when you compare those people and say the NAO don't seem to lack.
But still your effectiveness to carry on some of these duties is still something.
No, okay,
that
let
is
me just
questioned
compare. For example, now let's look at our role, our total role. I'm not talking of just the technical staff that do the audit. Our total number, including drivers and all support staff, is 193.
We don't need those people.
Okay, that's what I just want to come down. So now, when it comes to the technical staff that do the work, it's 102.
Okay, that's good.
Something around 102.
Because I understand that the NOA has always been the cry.
Yeah, so when, for example, now, look at it. We are mandated to audit all government institutions, ministries, department, agencies, projects, SOEs, state-owned, and so forth. So you look at the number. So, and then compare that with the number that we have. And also, once you are past that comparison, okay, now let's look at the issues. You have stated how many issues do we have, including the road construction that you said. That would have been my second intervention, to say we do not just react to, the problems are numerous, but you have to plan. If you fail to plan, you have already planned to fail. So at the end of the year, we would now sit to say, here is a road, people are crying the number of roads that are being built. Okay, the OIC is now completed, but people are not satisfied. We might now, it might interest us now to say, okay, let's go and see why people are dissatisfied. So, but this must be planned. We don't just react.
Okay, we could spend the next 3 hours talking about these things now, and then time is of the essence. Now I'll engage Mr. Jallo. Of course, we understand that audit reports comes with a lot of challenges, and there's a stage you have where you have the discrepancy. Most of the time, you have back and forth with some of these heads of institutions. Take us through how do you actually maneuver those, back and forth, and how do you arrive at a conclusion, and what are actually the sole objective of most of these audit reports that you give?
Yeah, thank you, Alu. And for us at the National Office, the sole objective is to add value to the work that we do. If we go to audit entity A, we want to ensure that we come up with, we give recommendations that when implemented would increase the efficiency of that particular institution. That is the sole objective, to add value to the work of the national, to our auditees. How do we do that? Is like I explained in the process. I've tried to, because of time, I just tried to summarize the process.
Yeah, sure.
The back and forth, yes, there is a lot of back and forth between us and the clients, and these back and forths are they are healthy back and forths, healthy in the sense that if you audit an institution, you expect that institution to respond, and you expect that institution to provide you with all available documentation so as you can finalize your audit. However, with or without those documentation, we will still go ahead and finalize the audit at some point. Of course, we would give you the opportunity to ensure that you provide us with all the documentation in order for us to finalize. And we don't, like I said, our process is very transparent. No institution can stand out there and say they concluded the audit without us being given the opportunity. It's very transparent. So that is why once our report, like the draft audit report, is just sent to the management of that particular institution, because it's not yet a final product. It's just to the management of that institution. Now, once you respond, we incorporate the response, like I said, verbatim, then we issue out the final report to the relevant stakeholders, especially the National Assembly. Because the National Assembly are our key stakeholders, and they are the one who mandated us to do audit of all these public institutions. So as a result, we audit and report back to the National Assembly, who then are able to use our reports to perform that oversight responsibility on the different institutions. And when we also submit this report, we also give them that technical support to the National Assembly in order for them to perform the relevant oversight that is needed on those institutions as well.
So we have few more minutes. I'll just ask one more question, and it has to do with corruption. Of course, it's a widespread, disease in Africa, and Gambia is no exception indeed. Now, tell us, what is the NOA doing, to cope? Because a lot of Gambians complain that institution A or the government is corrupt, and it keeps lingering all the time. What are you people doing actually to at least to curb that corruption within government institutions? Cognizant of the fact that you are there to make sure that the monies are well spent.
Thank you, Agu. You see, the people or the citizenry have to understand that of the National Audit Office, our main objective is to have an impact on the citizenry. How do we do that? Is to ensure that we do robust audits. And you see, sometimes it's interesting that most of these things are being talked about in the media. There are already issues that are contained in audit reports. Our responsibility is to report. Yeah? That is what we are mandated to do, audit and report. Somebody else have that oversight responsibility to perform, ensuring that our recommendations are implemented. However, in the Constitution, it has also talked about surcharge. Now, as we speak, we are currently trying to come up with an amendment bill with our NAO Act. What the amendment bill would help us to do is to come up with the framework of how we can go about with this surcharge. In the Constitution, it said you can surcharge, but the how is not being defined in the Constitution. So hopefully, once we are able to detail out the framework in this amendment bill and approve at the level of the National Assembly, it will give the Auditor General the opportunity to surcharge, to disallow expenditure. Let's say you go on audit entity A, and let's say the permanent secretary have suppressed revenue of so million. The Auditor General can issue a surcharge on that permanent secretary, which would mean that permanent secretary would either have to sit aside until investigation has been done and etc. For the sake of time, I wouldn't want to go too much into detail.
I'll engage Binta now, because we have a few more minutes. We understand that the National Audit Office actually submit, audit reports to the National Assembly. However, these timelines most of the time do not come as expected. Take us through, to those submissions, the timelines, and then what actually hinders those timelines to be met.
Now you're turning me into an auditor, but I will share the general knowledge that. So basically, like Serimas and the technical team has alluded, before we conduct an audit, we have to first have the financial statements provided for the audit. And I think when we get to some of the key challenges that the office faces, one of them would be untimely submission of financial statements or even submitting credible financial statements. So it in the Constitution, it says that in March, like once the year ends, by March, financial statements should be submitted for audit. And then within 6 months, the audit should be done and then a report submitted to the National Assembly. But if the financial statement submission is delayed, that of course is also going to delay the audit, and that would have an impact on when the audit will be completed and the report being done. But what I want to emphasize there that we acknowledge this gap, and I think one of our stakeholder engagement initiatives is to interact with the auditees so that they know the impact of some of these gaps on the work. Because at the end of the day, media will come back to us, or the spotlight will be on us that National Assembly is not, National Audit Office is not doing what it is mandated to do when it cannot actually do its audit, when it has not received the financial statements that, or the documents that it needs to receive to do the audit. One point I wanted to deliberate on from what Seringma started on, the issue of like the surcharge you mentioned and what he explained about us being a reporting body. In the Constitution, like we said, we cannot spell out everything that it states about the mandate of the Auditor General. But there's this provision that when the Auditor General conducts his audit and he sees suspected fraud, he can actually present those findings to the police. So it's for the police to further investigate and then kind of like take it from there. But at our level, we can only report, like Serin Mas mentioned.
Let me now come to Mr. Sabali. Yes, Mr. Sabali, you go out and audit. Now, the question is, who audits the auditor?
Good question.
That's a big question.
That's a very good question. Our auditors have been appointed by the National Assembly. Who also, we do not participate in the selection of who is going to audit us. Everything is left in the hands of the National Assembly to pick and choose an audit firm that is going to audit us. Of course, it has to be a private audit firm, but all the fees and everything are taken care of by the National Assembly. So this, if you in an order, if you look at it, the order, we are almost like the technical arm of the National Assembly.
Yeah, sure.
So by extension. So essentially, to answer your question, we are also audited by an audit firm appointed by the National Assembly.
To add to that, you see, we are not only audited whether a financial statement shows a true and a fair view. We are also part of a body, a regional body, the African Organization of Supreme Auditing Institutions. This regional body, after every 2 years, they also come to audit us. They don't audit us whether our finances shows a true and fair view, but in the manner in which we perform our work.
Exactly.
They come to audit to say, they look at our working paper files, they review do an institutional review, whether our methodology is conform with the set international standards or not. So the oversight, like Agaji said, the board is there, the National Assembly is there, but those regional bodies that we are also part of, they also perform that oversight on us as well.
Maybe I just add that even that oversight is in threefold. We have what they call quality assurance reviews, quality control reviews. They come very often. It's not just yearly. After that also, we have the ICBF, Institutional Capacity Building Framework. Every year, that's annual. There's another one that is also carried out, which is bigger, every 5 years. So we are also audited, not just the finances. As he also said, I'm proud to say that, okay, we are not operating in the backlog. Our 2022 accounts have already been audited. The report will be finalized very soon. So the auditors, let me use the term that people will, the witch hunters are also witch hunted.
Because I understand that you had a lot of backlogs of,
No, I can proudly say that for when it comes to the audit office itself, on its accounts, the 2022 accounts have been audited, already audited. So, and will be finalized very soon.
So this is going to be, the final question, because time is money.
Okay.
So we understand that every endeavor you do, there are challenges, and every institution has challenges. Now, what are some of the challenges that the NAO, encounters, and how do you overcome those challenges?
Our challenges are numerous, Agu.
Okay, but specific major ones indeed that has some.
Yeah, the major one that Binta have talked about, I want to emphasize on that one. That is the rate received of financial statement, and not only the rate received, but the credibility of those financial statements, because this is what is causing the backlog of audits. You do not submit on time, but when you submit also, they have information, if you like. So the time that we take, the back and forth that we take with our clients in ensuring that their financial statement is at a state that is presentable, that also takes a lot of our time. But among the other thing is the resources. Because if you look at the mandate of the Auditor General, it's wide. We audit almost everything. Even where the government have a minority interest, we have a mandate to go and audit. Now, looking at the number that Agaji said, looking at the mandate that we have, there's a gap. There's a mismatch. So what we are trying to do is to try to fill that gap. But in filling that gap, you don't only need, because if you employ somebody, you need the resources, you need the finance to pay the person, you need the working tools to give that person, you need to provide a desk where that person is going to sit. How do we do that is by ensuring that we have the available resources in order to get the right number to audit all the required institutions that we require to audit. Like this state-owned enterprise, they're all outsourced as we speak. Do we want to continue outsourcing them? No, we don't want to continue outsourcing them. We want to ensure that even whereas we outsource them, we perform a check on them. Because we have developed our outsource policy, and that outsource policy is geared towards ensuring that even if we outsource to a private entity A, we also are part of the process. Because usually we just identify auditors, and that's where we stop. But we want to go further to that, and so that we take ownership of these reports. For the interest of time.
So this is okay. Quickly,
yeah. Because if you talk about challenges, like I told you, this audit type is coming in new, and what we ask for when we get to the field, in addition to what the financial auditors ask for, the records are not there. A case in point, for example, if you ask the mayor of KMC or Banjul or maybe the alcalde of a particular place where waste is being generated, the question you're asking, how many kilo of waste do you evacuate from the city of Banjul? It's not there as at the time we audit. So now the point is, how do you plan for something that you don't know? You cannot quantify. So the point I am making is like the availability of information or those records, relevant information.
But aren't you not actually putting those recommendations for them to actually make the work easy for you people?
That is after when you audit. At the end of the audit, then you make those recommendations. But most of the times, even the relevant laws that governs a particular operations usually are not readily available. So you are forced to look around the region to where they're like people doing waste management and they are doing very well. Then you start to borrow and domesticate. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid time is up. But yes, just your final take, just within 30 seconds.
Okay, maybe not possible 30 seconds, but just to say, we actually have a website. So these audit types that they have mentioned, especially performance audit, reports that are discussed, we have published them on our website. So we will urge our citizens to follow on our website, but also we are on social media. We are on LinkedIn and we are also on Twitter. So we feel these are platforms that people can also link with us to know more about what we do. But of course, we'll continue our public sensitization, of course, going back to the resources constraint, but we'll look at initiatives that we could use. Currently, we have done some video explainers. We are doing simplified audit reports, but we are also increasing our interaction with the stakeholders, including media, civil society, even the auditees under the arm of the executive, the National Assembly, and even the general public. So we hope to continue to kind of like alleviate the misconception that people have about audit, but even some of the accusations that we will get in terms of our work, I think is because of the limitation in understanding where we stop and where somebody else's continue. But we hope that these sensitizations like this current TV program would also help people.
Well, Mr. Drame, just 10 seconds, please. Just 10 seconds.
I love that opportunity. I just wanted to say the example that you gave, people are interested in the road networks. There's a feedback column in our website where citizens can contribute to say these are the areas that we want you to audit or so forth. So then we will consider them during our planning and then see what happens.
Mr. Jallo?
For me, I think thank you very much. And if you need any further information, you can easily contact our communication people that would able to get you more clarity.
Well, viewers, that was all we have for you. Join us next time. But don't forget to drop your comments or questions on the comment section, and then the NAO will pick it up. From me, that was all we have for you. Until another time. Thank you.
We are the office. Our work involves a lot of things, and we are guided by several domestic and international laws, standards, and foundations. We inform and guide citizens on the use of government resources through simplified and citizen-friendly audit reports, providing independent and professional services on economic, efficient, and effective use of the country's resources. We are a fairly balanced workforce of more than 100 staff paving the way in national development. Our core values are integrity, professionalism, teamwork, accountability, and relevance. We plan, we perform, we report. We help the government to spend wisely. We are the National Audit Office, the supreme audit institution of the Gambia.